Recording in progress.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, or rather, good morning still. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning on this virtual media availability. Just some housekeeping very quickly before we get started. Please go ahead and ask me to record. I will give you the permissions and we'll run through that. We'll give everybody a moment to request their recording capabilities. And please go ahead and submit the request to record on the button there that says pause, stop recording, that kind of, and I'll give you the green light to record. If you could just submit the request, not in the chat, just put in ask to record or push the record button and it'll pop up on my end. And all you have to do is push the record button and it'll pop up on my end to get the recording capability. And a quick note, if you have trouble with your recording, again, for those of you who are asking to record, just press the record button and I will give you the permission. When, if you have any trouble with your recording, I will have a recording of my own and I can send you our recording if you have any trouble with your recording. And again, just press the record button at the bottom of your screen and and it'll send me a request accordingly. Okay. I think everybody who is needing a recording has asked me for a recording and we're going to go ahead and get started. And WNYW, if you can just press the record button and then I will give you permissions. And Matt Grubb, if you can press the record button, I can give you permission to record. There you go. Again, all you have to do is press the record button and I will give you the permission to record. Okay. Last call for anybody, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So on the call this morning is going to be our Mayor, Oscar Leeser. He is joined by our Deputy City Manager for Public Safety, Mario D'Agostino. And then also joining us, and he's running a little behind schedule, he's having some technical difficulties, is our Office of Emergency Management Coordinator, Chief Jorge Rodriguez, and he will be on camera shortly, but he will be available as well. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to you, Mayor, if you could go ahead and get us started with any kind of statement, and we'll leave it to that.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for being here. I think it, you know, Title 42 has come and gone, and I think it's important to realize that the borders were closed yesterday and they continue to be closed today. We saw a lot less numbers coming into our area, and I think we saw that because a lot of the asylum seekers that were coming in were under the impression, and unfortunately they were told that if they got here before Title 42 expired, they'd be able to stay in the United States and have political asylum. The President of the United States and Secretary Mayorkas has said that that wasn't the case. We did see a spike in the last week or so, and after yesterday's spike at about 1,800 that came in yesterday, we've not seen any additional big numbers come in through the El Paso sector into the El Paso area. We'll continue to make sure that everybody's treated with respect, and we'll continue to make sure that our asylum seekers and also the city of El Paso continues to be our priorities. We have opened up our 2 shelters, but one of them right now is in operation, and we have about 150 asylum seekers that have been put in there. They are families only, and single males and single females have gone to hotels at this point. We're continuing to, we know that we still need to prepare for the unknown because we don't know what's going to happen next week and continue to happen day in and day out. We are continuing to work really close with the Border Patrol. We're continuing to work really close with Customs and Protection, ICE, and all organizations in El Paso. We actually have had a very smooth transition as Title 42 has lapsed and we've gone to Title 8. And that really because we had a lot of preparation. We were ready, we were prepared. And, you know, we were preparing for the unknown and we'll still continue to do that. I'm going to kind of, I know there's a lot of you in here, so I'm going to kind of cut it short of the opening statement because I do want to hear from y'all and some of your questions and some of the things y'all would like to know from us. So thank you all. And again, I think it's important to notice that City of El Paso will continue to treat people the way we want to be treated.
Thank you, Mayor. With that, we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions. I will ask that you limit yourself to one question. We're going to try to get to as many questions as possible, but there is more than 60 folks on the call, so please, if you could raise your hand, it's under the reaction mode, and raise your hand, it will go down as many folks as possible, but please, again, if you could limit your question to one, and then we'll move on to the next. And we're going to go ahead and start with Alicia Caldwell. Go ahead, Alicia. And also just a reminder, if you could introduce yourself and the affiliation that you're with.
Hi, guys. Thanks for doing this. Alicia Caldwell with the Wall Street Journal. Can you tell us how many people are in hotels, and have you started busing, and how many folks have left the city to your knowledge, considering that the church grounds, of course, have now been cleared and almost 1,000 people surrendered to Border Patrol agents. But how many have left, and how many do you have in hotels?
Chief, you want to take that?
Sure. Good morning. Right now, we have not commenced any chartering operations. We are sheltering about 150 folks between the Bassett School and one other hotel.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Alicia. We're going to go ahead and go with Liloba. Liloba from KBIA, if you could ask your one question, please.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you again for making yourself available. My question is similar to Alicia's. I'd like to know, because I was at Sacred Heart quite a bit in the last weeks, and we saw quite large numbers of people out there in the streets. Do you know, again, to reiterate her question, how many people have actually left, and why only 150 people in city shelters? Thank you.
I think
I'm from KBIA, by the way. Thank you.
The reason why you don't see them in the streets, they actually were, the Border Patrol had actually helped the asylum seekers to fill out papers and try to help them go through the legal process of immigration. Now, part of your question you're asking is how many and where they've gone. That's that's something that you would have to ask Customs and Border Patrol. But now, when you ask about why only 150, because our shelters are set up to help decompress CBP, and at this point they're going through the processing. And as you saw, the law kind of changed a little bit yesterday and saying that they have to, have their court date set up prior to being released by Customs and Border Patrol. So that's going to slow them down a little bit, but we are prepared and ready to assist them as they decompress their system. We'll continue to help them.
Thank you, Mayor. And next in queue is going to be Marianne Martinez. Marianne, if you could advise us who you're with.
Hi, this is Marianne Martinez with the New York Post. My question is about, Mayor, touching on what you just said. Once these migrants who were apprehended yesterday, once they start getting released, what sort of strain will that put on city resources? For instance, will we see more of them at the shelters? And I also wanted to ask specifically about the transportation part of it in terms of flights and buses. Are you still seeing a bottleneck there in terms of moving people out of town?
Well, we'll continue to help our asylum seekers once they're released and they're free to go wherever they want to go, travel wherever they want to go to, anywhere within the U.S. or in the city of El Paso. And we'll be there to help them and help them arrange that. where we're going and where they're going, we don't know that today because we talk to them and then we help them arrange that and set it up. So for us to know where they want to go, we don't have a pre-manifesto of that at this point.
Thank you, Mayor. Next in queue is Salome Ramirez. Salome.
Hi, Mayor. Thank you for your time. I wanted to touch on that 150 people at the shelter because there's still hundreds of people waiting to be processed. Do you expect that in the next couple hours, those shelters are going to be filled up, or have you received information about needing to increase the capacity of the shelters and opening others to be able to receive the people that are still waiting to be processed?
And I'm going to let the chief answer that because it's coordination through the Office of Emergency Management and coordination with all the, everyone involved. So, Chief.
Which one, Mayor?
Very good. I'll take it, Chief. Oh, you got it?
Yeah, I got it. As the mayor described, we've been preparing for this for some time, working with our NGOs to increase our capacity, the schools, our Welcome Center, and the county's Migrant Services Support Center as well to help with that overall capacity. And we're coordinating closely with CBP, Border Patrol, OFO, and all the federal agencies to make sure that we can prevent street releases. But we're working day in, day out to coordinate all those efforts.
But sorry to...
Thanks right there that the chief was talking about, that we're working really hard to make sure there is no street releases. Our priorities, make sure that the community and our asylum seekers continue to be safe, and make sure there's no children's, young women, or anybody that gets taken advantage of or exploited. So it's important that we work with them and prepare and let us know so we can make arrangements so people are not released into the streets.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next in queue is Stephanie Cordova. Stephanie, if you could advise us who you're with, the group who you're with, and your one question.
Hola, buenos días, alcalde. Soy Stephanie Córdoba de Noticias Univisión. Si puede darnos un comentario en español sobre cómo la ciudad ha manejado la situación ahora que se terminó el título 40.
¿Lo puedo preguntar otra vez, por favor?
Sí, básicamente si nos puede comentar cómo en la ciudad del Paso ha manejado la situación ahora que se terminó el título 42.
Bueno, es una cosa que hablamos que no nos esperamos hasta el último día para preparar. Preparamos hace como un mes. Comenzamos a hacer las escuelas que ya no están usadas, prepararlas para cuando vienen aquí al Paso, podemos tener las escuelas, los hoteles y todo listo. La cosa que es importante que nadie está en la calle y le podemos ayudar ya cuando entran por la ley y hacen los papeles con la migración, que les podemos ayudar para que puedan ir con sus amigos, con su familia o donde tienen trabajo. Pero la cosa es que era importante que preparamos para ahora y comenzamos ya hace más de un mes para estar preparado y también aprendimos por cosas que nos ha pasado y hicimos hace un año.
Thank you, Mayor. Gracias, Stephanie. Next thing is going to be Jennifer Cuevas. Jennifer, if you could introduce yourself and your station as well as your one question. Thank you.
Jennifer Cuevas, I'm with KFOX and CBS4. I would like to know what sort of documents the migrants who are at Bassett have. Is that the I-862 form? And just a second part of the question, the migrants, the 150 migrants, were they brought in from the CBP detention facility, from the Yarborough part of the border wall, or from some of the NGOs?
Chef Agustino?
Yes, and so they were brought in from CPC custody. So they have all been processed. They have their full documentation with their A number on it. And they were brought in from their holding centers, whether it's far northeast or on Hondo Pass, but that's how they were brought into the shelter system.
Thank you. And just the second part of my question is,
Jennifer, we're going to limit it to one question because there's so many folks that appreciate it, but we can always come back to another question. So the next in queue is going to be Mireya Villarreal. Mireya, if you could unmute yourself and then introduce yourself and your affiliation.
Hi, yes, good morning, and thank you guys for doing this call again. Mireya Villarreal with ABC National News. I had a question about the video and a life deal. A lot of the images that we're all seeing, not just in El Paso, but around the country of migrants waiting on the other side of the wall, but on U.S. soil. There obviously, the other night, for example, there was a big sandstorm in the El Paso area. The reason why I'm asking you guys about this is because I know how well prepared you are to respond to any and all things related to this issue. And there have been a lot of concerns about how long those people are waiting out there. Has the city been contacted at all by Border Patrol, by the federal government, DHS, to help maybe put up some shelters for them, to provide food, water, anything like that whatsoever? And can you step in that moment?
I think in everything you asked, we've been contacted by the federal government. We're working and we're in contact at all times with Secretary Mayorkas, his office, and how we continue to provide a service and how they can help us. But I drove into Juarez 2 days ago, and I looked at really how many people were ready to come, into the United States, where they were. And then I talked to the officials in Mexico and asked them how many they felt were there and how many they felt that they would be coming across once Title 42 expired. The number I got was 3,000 to 5,000. And we know that there's more going to be coming. We know that this is just the beginning. So we are prepared, and that's what we've been preparing for. We've been preparing for what I keep saying, the unknown. The unknown is what's coming behind. How will we know what's coming behind, and how do we prepare is by always making sure that we're available and work hand in hand with all our partners. And I think the city of El Paso has done that very well. And that's why you see the big difference in El Paso that we've seen anywhere else across the country. I've seen a lot of those videos you're talking about, and I'm very, very proud of the way the city of El Paso and all our partners have really been ready and prepared. And I think I see a lot of the difference because of that.
Thank you, Mayor. Next in queue is Karina Yampor. Karina, if you could introduce yourself and your affiliation.
Sure, thank you. I'm Karina Yapor with Voz Media en Mega TV. Y, alcalde, quisiera preguntarle si pudiera respondernos en español, por favor, ¿qué recursos ha recibido la ciudad del Paso por parte del gobierno federal para poder afrontar esta emergencia migratoria que lleva ya meses? ¿Y cómo ha afectado, antes de recibir estos recursos, en los recursos que tenía la ciudad del Paso al atender esta situación migratoria?
Well,
I don't know. I don't know if you heard the question. I was just going to repeat her question in terms.
Will you please? That'd be great. Thank you.
Yes, sir. She's asking specifically in terms of, in Spanish, if you could explain what financial resources has the city received and how has it impacted us overall? Have we had to use any of our resources of the city for this migrant crisis?
Sí nos ha ayudado y nos continúa de ayudar el gobierno federal, pero ahorita, como vemos que no están viniendo aquí al Paso, están viniendo a los Estados Unidos, y lo que estamos haciendo es el trabajo del gobierno federal, y si tenemos que pagarlo con el dinero de la ciudad, no se podía hacer eso. Y ahorita nos da dinero para poder hacer ahora y continuar a hacerlo cada día, pero todos sabemos ahorita que el gobierno federal, todo el sistema de inmigración está quebrado y tenemos que arreglarlo y continuar a arreglarlo porque no podemos continuar así si no se hace algo, no se arregla. Ahorita nos ayudan mucho, pero no sabemos cuánto podemos continuar si no cambian la ley y cambian lo que está pasando ahorita con el gobierno federal. Y es lo que estamos esperando, pero aquí en El Paso sabemos que somos una ciudad de la fronteriza y vamos a ayudar y hacer lo que podemos hacer para tratar a todos como se deben de tratar.
Gracias, alcalde.
Gracias.
Gracias. Next in queue is Georgina Jerez de Televisa. Georgina.
Hola, buenas tardes. Hello, Mayor. My question is, and if you can answer also in Spanish, what is the status of the people that is literally on the middle of the part of El Paso, but also here in Juarez, as the reporter says before, they are waiting like on the middle of the desert, waiting for water, exposed to the heat. So how do you get to the conclusion that they were able to be on the middle, on the process of being sent to El Paso?
Lo que están viendo allí es cuando entraron a los Estados Unidos, entraron 1,800 ayer y tenemos que ayudarles y moverlos al CBP para que lo puedan registrar y comenzar a hacer los papeles para hacerlo todo legal. Y como digo, vinieron como 1,800 anoche y en la mañana cuando hablé con el director del Border Patrol me dijo que más habían 300 allí, pero para fin de la mañana que ya todos iban a salir de allí y lo iban a llevar, sí, porque lo tienen que poner en un autobús y llevarlo allí con el Border Patrol para que los puedan ayudar a hacer los papeles, para poderle ayudar a hacer todo legal de estar aquí en los Estados Unidos.
Thank you.
Gracias, alcalde. Gracias. Next in queue is going to be Suzanne. Suzanne, if you could introduce yourself and your affiliation.
Hi, Suzanne Gamboa from NBCnews.com, NBC Latino. You kind of touched on this question, but I wanted to ask it a little bit in a different way. How far do you think your finances, your resources, your funding resources will get you if this does go into next week? And at what levels can you be sustained with the funding that you have? Thank you.
Chief D'Agostino?
So, how long is it going to last? Time will tell. It's about what part of the operation we're doing. Right now, we're very limited in what we're actually providing. We are providing a lot of services, a lot of transportation pieces, local transportation, whether from CBC over to the county's processing center. We're also providing that shelter space that we talked about, but the numbers are truly low at this point in time. So as far as funding, we have plenty of funding at this point in time to continue forward, and that's not really our primary concern at this time. We're just trying to be as judicious as we can to make sure we have those fundings to last us into the coming weeks of operations.
And that also depends on how many people are sponsored and non-sponsored. And that'll make a big difference. A sponsored is somebody that has their money or has a sponsor within the U.S. and they bought their ticket moving within the United States. Non-sponsored is people that they don't have money and they don't have anybody they're going to go meet. So it all depends. One thing we are committed to is making sure that we spend every penny wisely to make sure it lasts, because we know that the immigration process is broken. We know it needs to be fixed, and we know there's not a short-term answer right now.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next in queue is Andrea Littleton. Andrea, if you could introduce yourself and your affiliation.
Good morning, guys. This is Andrea from KTSM. I just wanted some clarification. Yesterday, we received a press release that said law enforcement agencies increased presence throughout the community. As we know, El Paso has been the target of anti-immigrant violence in the past. And so I was hoping that you could clarify the reasoning for the increase in law enforcement agencies, if it's something that the community should be concerned about, or especially our friends in the national media, just the optics of that. Thank you.
And one of the things we want to continue to be proactive and make sure our commitment is to the citizens of El Paso, and make sure the city of El Paso is safe, and it is safe, and it's continued to be safe. We're working together with a lot of law enforcement partners. And so, we want to make sure that our asylum seekers, that they're not on the border highway and they're protected. As we saw that happened to be an issue maybe back in December. So we want to make sure that we continue to be proactive. And as you saw when we blocked off Father Ram, that was, 12 hours before anything happened up in Brownsville, because we wanted to be proactive. There's people on the street. So when we talk about patrolling the neighborhood, patrolling the area, it's something we do every day. And we want to make sure that our citizens know that we are there and we're continuing to be there, and they are and will continue to be our priority.
And next in queue is going to be Chantel Sansores. Chantel, si puedes hacer tu pregunta y decir de dónde eres.
Hola, buenas tardes, Chantal Sansores de Telemundo El Paso. Quería preguntarles, actualmente en el Sagrado Corazón, los migrantes que están siendo liberados continúan con mucha confusión en cuanto a dónde pueden ir, dónde se pueden refugiar o dónde pueden conseguir transporte. ¿La ciudad de alguna manera está apoyando en ir a brindar información o a brindarles detalles acerca de los posibles refugios?
And I don't know if the question, it might be for Chief Rodriguez or
Chief Rodriguez.
Chief Rodriguez, the question was specifically, is that the migrants need to express some concern, some confusion over to how they can receive support either through transportation or to shelter. Is there something that the city is providing information, or is this something that other agencies are providing for the migrants in order to clarify the situation?
Thank you for the question. The NGO networks are working closely and they have individuals that go out.
Disculpe, si es posible en español.
Sí, deja que pueda responder en inglés y luego Enrique te puede dar la respuesta en español.
So yes, the answer is yes. Our local NGOs are engaging with those individuals that are in those areas and are providing some of that information.
Enrique, ¿sí puedes dar la respuesta?
Y lo que decía el jefe Rodríguez es que a través de la red de las organizaciones no gubernamentales con las que hemos estado trabajando, el personal de cada una de esas organizaciones ha estado en contacto constante, ya sea en la zona o en sus propios albergues, para brindar toda esta información a los migrantes y poder hacer cómo tenemos.
And we have a bit of a I will remind you all to please make sure that you mute yourselves if you're not asking a question. Thomas, I do see your question in terms of recording. We will get that to you. But next in queue is going to be Alicia Caldwell. Alicia, if you could, I'm trying to mute.
Yeah, hi, it's Alicia with the Wall Street Journal again. According to the data posted by the city every day, Border Patrol released, I think, approximately 1,600 people in the last 24 hours or so, several thousand over the last week. Do we know where they are? Are they all in NGO shelters? Because obviously 150 doesn't match that figure. So can you explain sort of that delta of where those folks may be?
I'll take that one. So the way that the distribution of those that are released through CBP, you have daily releases that go to the NGOs. Usually that's anywhere between the 300 to 500 range. Then you have and then whoever above and beyond that will go to the county's Migrant Services Support Center. So between those two agencies, and then as the operations that we just described earlier that we stood up yesterday, help augment that. But that process is ongoing and happens every day to help facilitate the movement of all those individuals.
Thank you, Jorge. I appreciate it. And next in queue is Iker Cesdedos. If you could introduce yourself and your affiliation.
Hello, hi. Hola, soy Iker Cesdedos del País, un diario de España. Quería preguntar, el alcalde ha dicho antes, que es una cosa que ha repetido varias veces durante la semana, que el sistema de la inmigración en Estados Unidos está roto. Me gustaría saber qué considera él que hay que hacer para arreglar ese sistema de inmigración.
Mayor, the question is for you. If you could in Spanish explain, you have said before that the immigration system is broken, and from your perspective, what are some of the ways that we could fix the system, or from our perspective?
Sí, la cosa que para arreglarla y tienen que trabajar con todos los países allí que vienen para aquí, para el Paso, pero cuando vienen a los Estados Unidos, tienen que tener más jueces para hacerlo más rápido, para que no tienen que esperar tanto para agarrar la cita. Y también necesitamos darle permisos para poder trabajar, porque vienen con familia, necesitan trabajar, necesitan comer. A mí me gustaría ver que lo más rápido con los jueces y agarrar más jueces para ayudar, y también tener permisos para poder trabajar y continuar a trabajar hasta tienen la cita con los jueces.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Next in queue is Jennifer Cuevas. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yes, thank you. Jennifer with KFOX and CBS4. Mayor Leeser, with the new shift in the asylum policies, are you expecting the numbers to decrease in these next couple of days into next week?
Can you repeat that for me, Laura, please?
Jennifer, can you repeat yourself? Because your audio is very low. We can barely hear you.
Yes, I wanted to know if with the new asylum rule that's in place, if you are all expecting a decrease in the migrants arriving.
I can
You know,
take that
that's
one,
what
Mayor.
that's what we've been talking about, that we need to prepare for the unknown. We know that the policies have changed. We've gone from Title 42 to Title 8. The difference between Title 42 and Title 8, one of the things is on Title 42, you couldn't apply for political asylum. Now through Title 8, you can. On Title 8, if you do get returned, you will have a minimum of 5 years that you could not return and apply. So there's some things that are going to happen that will be a big difference. But do we know what's coming? Do we know how many is coming? And do we know the mix of single males, families, or we don't know that? And that's why, again, I repeat myself every time I say this, because I think it's important that the city of El Paso is doing a really good job of preparing for the unknown. And so until, we get to, they come in here and we get to talk to them, and then we see what shelters they go into, whether they're unsponsored or sponsored, it's going to make a big difference. But we'll continue to be prepared. But we're not. We do have talked to our partners over there in Mexico, and they'll give us, that they see a caravan of so many coming to help us get prepared, and that's what we'll continue to do. But do we have a number today? We don't. But we know that this is just the beginning of the change of immigration laws. So this is something that will be new to us, and we'll be prepared for it. Chief, Rodriguez, did you have something to add to that, sir?
No, sir. You got it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. We do have one quick question, Mayor. If we could go back to the question related to immigration, and the question was initially asked in Spanish as to immigration. You've said before that immigration is broken, and what are some of the solutions that you might suggest in order to address the concerns there?
You want me to answer that in English?
In English, yes, sir.
In English? Yeah, well, we've been talking about the immigration process is broken. And one of the things that's really important that, Congress and Senate need to agree to disagree and then learn to compromise because this is not just a border issue. It's an issue for all of the United States. So one of the things I'd like to see as our asylum seekers come into the United States, we need a lot more immigration judges, and those judges that can really bring them, quicker than 4 or 5 years. And also, I'd like to see them have a permit to be able to work and be able to support their family. And I think that's something that needs to be done as they start issuing court dates, so they can come back and be able to support themselves, support the family. And I think that's something that's been really important. When Mayor Adams was here and we went down the Sacred Heart, and we probably had a group of 40 or 50, and we were talking to him, and he asked him, he says, how many of you would like to have a job today? And every one of them raised their hand. And that's what they're here to really help and improve the quality of life for themselves and their family.
Thank you, Mayor. Next in queue is Lilova Shitsuro from KVA.
Thank you, everyone. Again, I was wondering, Mayor, at the beginning of the news conference, you mentioned that 1,800 migrants had turned themselves in to Border Patrol yesterday. I was wondering how many of that number went to the Las Cruces area or other areas in the state of New Mexico, as far as you're aware?
We just, they do share to us the numbers, and then they talked about how they were early this morning that they were down to 300, and they want to make sure that everybody is off that area and goes into the processing centers. Where they take them, that would be a question for CBP, because again, we know that we're going to have to help them decompress the system, and Las Cruces and surrounding areas and NGOs, and of course the city of El Paso, we're all partners, and we all will play a different role as it moves forward. But how it's divided, you'd have to ask somebody at CBP.
Thank you, Mayor. And I see no other hands raised at this point in time. And so with that, Mayor, if you wanted to add any final comments, or Chief Rodriguez or Chief D'Agostino, if you wanted to add any additional information, if y'all.
I do want to say that I want to thank everybody, of course, for being here, but this is, we know that it's changing, whether it's hourly or whether it's daily, and we don't know what, tomorrow will bring, but we are prepared to continue to provide a service for the federal government. And that's what people are not coming to El Paso, they're coming to the United States. And we want to make sure we help them and continue to go to their destination and continue to make sure that we provide a service. And the most important part, I keep saying that we're here to provide the service for our community and make sure that our citizens continue to be safe and that our asylum seekers continue to be safe. Chief D'Agostino?
No, that's it, Mayor. You summed it up well. You know, we are prepared. We have a lot of resources at our hands. We'll over the next couple of days, we'll see what those numbers truly bring and how we respond to that. But we are prepared as a community at large, and we're working together, and we're looking to see what the next few days brings us.
Thank you. And we do have one more question from Juliana Henao. Juliana, si quieres prender tu micrófono y hacer tu pregunta.
Claro que sí. Quisiera aclaración. El alcalde mencionó que ayer se habían recibido 1,800 personas y solo hay 150 alojadas en total entre Bassett Middle School y los hoteles que ha habilitado la ciudad. ¿Las otras personas quiere decir que van a ser deportadas?
Mayor, or chiefs, this is a question. We've said that there were several thousand folks that came into the United States yesterday, but the city has taken in about 150 folks. Does this mean that the other portion of the 1,000 have been or will be deported?
No, lo que eso es que ya esos hicieron los papeles que necesitan con la inmigración y están legal aquí ya. La cosa es que ya cuando cambia el título 42 a título 8 toma mucho más tiempo para hacer esas cosas. Entonces va a tomar mucho más tiempo. Ya cuando están listos, los van a mandar a diferentes partes y nosotros estamos listos para ayudar cuando nos necesitan para que nadie vaya en la calle. Pero no, eso no dice eso, no dice nada de eso porque todavía el proceso tiene que continuar y es lo que estamos esperando.
Muchísimas gracias, alcalde. Gracias, Laurita.
Gracias. Gracias, Juliana. We do have another question from Alejandro Saldivar from Univision. Alejandro, if you could unmute yourself.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes. Así es, Alejandro Saldivar de Univision. La pregunta es saber si las autoridades locales en El Paso están en contacto con autoridades en otras ciudades del estado o incluso con organizaciones precisamente que están apoyando a migrantes. Sabemos que los están transportando vía autobús, entonces si hay algún enlace y justo lo que hablaban de los recursos, ¿cómo están manejando esto? Si no lo pueden aclarar, por favor.
I think that question's for Chief Rodriguez.
Chief Rodriguez. And Chief Rodriguez, the question, and Enrique, if you could provide the Spanish translation. I'll ask Chief Rodriguez to answer the question in English, and then Enrique Dueñas, if you could answer the question in Spanish. So the question specifically from Alejandro is, we spoke about the partnerships in reference to the law enforcement as well as our federal and state partners. Do we also have partnerships with other cities in the community in order to transport some of the migrants outside of El Paso?
Just to clarify that last part of that question, they're asking if we have
partnerships with other cities?
Sure. We are in communication with all of our big city partners throughout Texas, but also other counties and other cities across the southwest border. And we always maintain a high level of communication. Everyone is concerned and placing a lot of resources in preparation for this ending of Title 42. So in short, yes, we do have a broad network of partnerships.
And Enrique, if you could provide.
Sí, lo que decía el jefe Rodríguez es que sí, en efecto tenemos alianzas con múltiples ciudades, no solamente las ciudades grandes en el resto de Texas y en otras partes del país, sino también con algunos de los condados que están a través de la frontera suroeste. Esto para establecer esta red de comunicación, estar en coordinación y poder establecer una solución y estar todos en contacto con los mismos tipos de temas a través del país acerca de cómo responder a esta situación.
Gracias, Enrique. We have one more question from Andrea Littleton. Andrea, if you could unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, it's Andrew Litton. I just have one question. With regards to the 150 that you all got yesterday, what is the breakdown on that? Is it mostly family units or single men? I know that you guys had them separated out in the Bassett area, but if you guys could just provide a little bit of update as to the demographics.
Chief, can you break that down for us, Chief D'Agostino?
They're all family units.
The ones at the Bassett are all family units. The ones within the hotel system, it's a mix between single males and single females.
Thank you, Andrew. And I apologize about your last name. I didn't mean that. Susan?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, just to make sure I'm understanding correctly in terms of the traffic that you're dealing with. Obviously, you have numbers that were not that are not overtaking your space. And if I understood correctly, the belief is that it depends on how much how CBP releases the people, the other thousands that are out there or that they have taken in, how those are released over time. So you all are sort of waiting to see what comes in the next week. Is that correct? I mean, I'm trying to understand why you think it could be more or less. Like, if you could just kind of clarify that just a little bit more.
Well, what we're talking about, from Title 8, now that it's in effect, takes quite a bit longer. It takes 2 to 3 times longer to register and go through the legal immigration process. So as they go through that, and then they're able to go through the country, they're in the United States or in El Paso, they'll be released to us. And we don't know how many and when and how fast that could be processed, because the judge that put the new injunction says that unless you have a court date, that you cannot be released into any community and into any area. So that really has changed a little bit of what the pace and how we were expecting it. So we will continue to work with CBP, because we're here as they register and go through the immigration process. Then we'll be prepared to help them shelter and move on to meet their friends or families, or go to a job they have prepared across the United States. One thing we'll always do, we'll only send people to where they want to go and not where anyone else would want to send them to.
So if I'm understanding,
and if I may, Susan, I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure I understand this last point correctly. If I understand correctly, the things that have happened so far, everybody's sort of breathing some sigh of relief because it wasn't really bad, but really it's the coming days and the effect of the court decisions and CBP's release procedures with Title 8. Does that sort of sum it up correctly?
Chief D'Agostino?
Can I say this again?
Yes, you could.
It's really, I mean, a lot of people are sighing relief, but really maybe there may be a larger obstacle to overcome in the coming days. Is that correct?
That's exactly it. It's the next coming days will tell, how the releases happen, how they're coming into the community, at what rate, and what the population truly is. So it's going to take time to get a full understanding.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And I'm going to make this the last question, Ms. Jennifer Cuevas, if you could ask your final question, and then we're going to be closing this out.
Yes, thank you. Just one last question. Did the city receive clarification about the I-862 form? Is that counting as an asylum number?
And just because your audio is very low, the I-8...
Yes, did the city receive clarification about the I-862 form that some migrants received earlier this week? Is that, an asylum number or paper?
That has been the existing form. There was confusion on another form that we were seeking clarification on, but the I-862 is the one that has been used previously. So that's the one that we're counting on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. We're going to go ahead and close this out. And Mayor, I know you already gave your final statement, but I do appreciate everybody joining us this morning for this availability. And again, Mayor, I don't know if you had any additional comments, last comments before we close out.
I do. I want to thank you for putting this together and the outstanding job. And, it's really important that we talk to the media and continue to talk to our community, and our best way to do that is through the media. So I want to thank you all for for being here. And I just want to make sure everyone, and I've said this probably 2-3 times today, that our responsibility is the safety of our asylum seekers, but also make sure we have the safety of our community and El Pasoans. So I thank you all for being here, and y'all have a wonderful weekend. And to all the mothers, happy Mother's Day this weekend.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all. And again, if you have any trouble with your recording, please contact me via email. Thank you all again.